La Casa del Tamal, and it is always full, and they don't take reservations.
And it's packed, but
So good.
you know something about that, Amber? You're sitting there and you feel like you're in somebody else's conversation because their tables are.
Yeah, they're so tight, they really packed it in.
Sounds like red aqua.
Yes, it is like.
Gave one to Greg, and you know what, I can't pronounce the food.
No, what are they? You just point. I like them.
They have those burrito tacos that are like. It is like.
Okay, that.
Just buy it, and then, no, you'll watch the tape. By the time the meeting's done, that will be.
Oh my gosh.
Stay away from it.
They spent a lot of money making these, so you might as well take them. At least look here.
Can't quite split me.
Make Helen proud. Helen, I have my first one I ever had.
Oh, thank you. Oh, no, this I have to share, so.
Packet. And I have referred to it in the times past.
Oh, thank you.
It hasn't done me any good. But I want you to know,
It's 9 o'clock
I still don't know what's going on.
in Gavel. Good morning, everybody. It's 9 o'clock. We have a forum. If Katerina would like to start with our roll.
Yes. Greg Hilton,
Present.
Emily Gray,
Here,
Anna Barbieri,
here.
Diane Turner, here. Keith Sussman.
Yep.
Reese Freeman.
She's online.
Laurie.
Just mute.
Wave your hand.
Marcy Houseman.
I'm here online.
Matt Holton.
Here.
Nick Sudbury.
Here.
Patrick Schaefer. Robert Pignon, excused. Sherry Orr. Here. Tessa Stitzer. Tom DeSiren. And Wayne Chavis.
All right, thanks, Katerina. We have our consent items. Anybody would like to comment or?
If nobody wants to comment, also move to approve.
Second, Anna Taylor still.
Nick and Anna, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. We'll now open up for public comments. If there are any online, present, we're gonna say anything. Seeing none, we'll move on to the business items. Resolution 4434, expressing appreciation to retiring operation supervisor Bill Hobbs. Oh, that's right. Yes. Is he here? There he is. Welcome, Bill. 28 years.
Wow.
That's a lifetime. We appreciate it. Well, my longest one was only been about 8 or 9 years, so to me, that's a big number. So I move around a lot. But anyway, here's the resolution of the White City, resolution of Los Angeles Waste and Recycling District Board of Trustees expressing appreciation to Operations Supervisor Bill Hobbs. Resolution number 4434, adopted Monday, May 19th, 2025. Be it known and remembered that whereas the Los Angeles Waste and Recycling District, the district, formerly known as Salt Lake County Special Services District Number 1, was established in January 1977 by the Salt Lake County Commissioners and renamed the Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling District effective as of January 1st, 2013. And whereas on November 10th, 2009, the Salt Lake County Council created the Administrative Control Board to govern the district effective January 1st, 2010. And whereas On March 16th, 2022, the county council recognized the district as a local district, and the board of trustees was granted full governing authority as allowed under the state statutes. And whereas Bill Hobbs was hired on May 26th, 1997 by Salt Lake County and transferred to the Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling District on January 1st, 2013. And whereas the dedicated public servant has served the district and its residents faithfully and diligently for 28 years. And whereas this honorable operations supervisor is retiring, the district wishes to express the appreciation to Bill Hobbs for his years of dedicated service. Now therefore be it resolved by the board that Bill Hobbs is appreciated and recognized. We applaud all the great efforts of Bill and all the district staff. Approved and adopted the 19th day of May, 2025.
There a motion?
Yes, we need a motion.
I'll move.
Mick, thank you.
Second. Matt, same problem.
Appreciate you. All in favor?
I
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Bill, you were gonna be missed, I heard. I have to say that when Bill first told me that he was gonna retire, I really teared up. Because Bill has been a stellar employee and dedicated supervisor, making sure that people are taken care of. And I called him the truth teller, many a time. Oh, this is. He's the one, he's the black and white, tell me how it is, and with respect, and that's the thing that I've loved over the years. He and I started working together when I started with the division in 2007. And just thank you for all your dedication. We're gonna have a party for him on May 30th, we're back for that. And we'll definitely have a roast with lots of, not a roast of meat, but.
Oh,
Talk about it.
both would be good.
Yeah, Bill has a lot of isms that he has, a lot of quotes, like, all is part of, all of it is part of, there we go. So anyway, thank you for your great service.
Yeah. Okay, it's always nice, sad, bittersweet to see a great employee leaving us, but happy for their next chapter in life and we're excited for it. Next up, we have the 2024 annual comprehensive, excuse me, I'm struggling today. Comprehensive financial report and identification audit report. Green. Spire Company.
Kyle, you want to come in and run?
You bet. Sorry. 90 minutes. I need my blind spot. Let's see if
Well, thank you, Kyle, for joining us. Kyle is our audit principal here for our audits for Squire. And he's here to present our audit and his, our app for his audit.
Awesome.
Okay, take it away.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate being here again. I'm sorry, I called out, the drive this morning was one where as you get closer, the time just keeps saying, what is happening? But we're here. So, yeah, so our job as independent auditors is to come in and verify that the balances and the things here and the ASPRs are presented are what we use in our language materially correct, right? And so we do tests to say that these things make sense, they have support, there's evidence. And so we've done our work. We're grateful for the team that's here. No, as a board, we were given full access as we asked, and Helen, gave us what we needed. And so no, we weren't trying to withhold anything. They were forthright. They gave us what we needed. And the audit pretty smooth. So we're grateful for that. So to get to it, so our it looks like, I'm not sure who's driving up there. I think that's our.
What do you need?
I think that's the governance letter. So that's a separate letter issued to the board outside of our audit. Yeah, we could go to that, sorry. I'll just take you through, our audit reports and then if Helen has any specific financial data or you guys have any specific questions, we can go through that, if that's all right. So I was gonna go to our audit report and page 15 there. Okay, so that is our audit report there. So up at the top is our opinion. And ultimately in that second paragraph, so first paragraph, we've audited these financial statements. Second paragraph, we get into our opinion, which is that these financial statements are presented fairly. Like, it's also referred to an unmodified opinion. That's kind of the highest level opinion that we can give. So the numbers in here, we feel are good, right? They've been supported. We've tested them and feel good about those, okay? One thing to point out on this page as well, just for you as a board, there's this emphasis of matter paragraph there. So there was a new GASB statement. So it's an accounting standard, 101, where it was talk about compensated absences. In the past, compensated absences, you only picked up the amounts that you were going to pay out. Now standards require you to evaluate and estimate how much is going to be used and paid out. So there's a usage component now that comes into play. Because of that, the financial statements were restated just to get in accordance or implementing the standard. So not a finding. Oftentimes you hear restatement, that can have a negative connotation, right? This one purely just we're restating to get in compliance with this new standard. So no finding around it. Helen had the amounts calculated, had everything in order to be able to make that restatement. So the ultimate impact is your net position went down about 137,000. Not a huge impact, but still substantial. And just so you know, so that's again just from an implementation of standard. So we're just pointing that out here. Hey, just be aware of this, but it doesn't change our opinion, and it doesn't cause a fine. Okay. Any questions on that? Perfect. Okay. I'm then actually going to forward all the way down close to page 86. And on a PDF, it might be 87. Sometimes there's always those 3-page, yeah, my government audited standard. So just a couple more pages down. Okay. Yeah. All right, so that's great. So this is our, we'd call it kind of the government auditing standard letter, internal control letter. If there were a finding, if there was something that we needed to report to you as a board, this is where we would do it. So we, you can see somewhat in italics there, we define kind of what a deficiency in internal control is, what a weakness might be, significant deficiency, but as a board, until you don't have any of those to report to you this year. So again, everything was in order. We saw controls happening, approvals where they needed, things being reviewed. Okay, so nothing to report back. You'll go 2 more pages down, and then we've got our state compliance. So again, just as a reminder, you're required every year to go through a state compliance audit. The state auditor and his team, I guess her team now, still under the old regime, but her team now go through that and create a just a guide, right, that we have to come out and test. So they're indented were the items that we had to look at this year, starting with budgetary compliance. It goes fund balance, riders, that special local service district board members. So those were the areas that we looked at, and a variety of tests on each one just to make sure you're complying with the rules and the laws of the state. The next paragraph, just right after those indented items, is again our opinion. It says, in our opinion, you've complied in all material respects. So again, no findings or anything on the state compliance report. required tests were being done. So again, kudos to the team and what they were. Make sure they're getting, that we see all those items. Okay? So those are our reports. The rest of this document that you have in front of you really is yours, right? Those are just our reports and what we've done with them and to verify them. Any questions on that, or what we do, or what we found, or
It's pretty straightforward.
awesome.
Have a motion?
So moved.
I know, it's just that it's very questions about the app itself or.
It's liability. Cash balance.
I guess at this time we'll take a motion to accept the report.
I so moved.
Oh, thank you, Mick.
Second.
Jerry, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So, thank you. Next up, general manager's position announcements, range and recruitment process.
And before we get to that, can we go to the accountant? Reclassification.
Oh, I think we're-
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. Well,
Let's-
this here, and then Melissa Potter, our compensation consultant, that they'll both come up here and be part of this discussion.
Yes.
I'm just gonna kick off the reclassification from controller to accountant, and what we need to do with office policy going forward, and then I'm gonna turn it over to these folks over here to my right. And Helen was instrumental in looking at the job as well, with her expertise in serving as a treasurer controller for Sandy City for many years. So part of your approval today will be approving the accountant position to serve as the treasurer. So we, the district, have to have an appointed treasurer. So, and talking with our legal counsel, we can have you make that appointment under policy. So this is just basically to abolish the controller position itself, and then appoint the accountant as the treasurer under state statute, and they will follow all of the statutes for compliance. Helen will be supervising this position. The other thing is Helen will assume supervisory responsibilities that the controller was formerly doing. There are 4 employees in this particular work unit, the budget finance team. So she'll take on all of that, including payroll technician, customer accounts coordinator, and and then and doing a great job. And then also under the controller position was the cybersecurity for so Renee Plant, who is our liaison with our IT vendor, which is Salt Lake County, will take on that responsibility. It makes sense for that shift, and it's easy to be absorbed. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it over, Hazel, Helen, and listen to get into like the classification, or where do you all want to start?
So anytime we have a vacant position, it's a good practice to review the job description and compare that with the needs of the organization. As I mentioned, Helen, we took a look at that, and we did reclassify to an accountant. And this position will also still be the treasurer for the organization. And then we worked with Melissa, since this is a new position for us, to determine the pay range for this position. And I really appreciate having Melissa as a neutral third party that comes in and gives us that pay range to make sure we're competitive with other government organizations. That's probably all I need to say.
So I'll just briefly go over the process, just so you're all comfortable with the recommendation that we're making for this range. Like all positions, we do a market competitive approach, which means that we look at market data. And every position is based upon a range, based upon the market data that I calculate. And one thing I think is important to note is the last time all of the Woodford positions were analyzed were in September 2022. And so after that, what happens is when the board approves the COLA, we adjust the range based upon that COLA. So starting with pay plan 2024 and 2025, we weren't looking at market data. We were just looking at making a COLA adjustment. And so when I pulled the data, I had to get current data, and then I also aged the data, which means that I'm just comparing apples to apples, which means that if a survey date was like January 1st, 2025, and another survey date was March 1st, 2025, I'm aging them all to match. And so there's a calculation I use. And so I also look at the actual job description, and you can see that that's on the board. I'm looking at the minimum qualifications for this position, and I'm pulling job matches from these surveys that closely match the job description and the minimum qualifications. After I've completed that, I get back together with the team, with Hazel and with Pam and with Helen, and I show them the data, and I show them the summary from the surveys. And based on that, we have a candid discussion as far as, does this look right? Does this make sense? And then based upon that consensus that everybody's comfortable, I calculate the range based upon the midpoint, which is what I'm calculating for. And so with all positions, there's a 40% spread. And you can kind of see what's highlighted in red was what the controller position was that we're no longer going to look at market data for. We're changing that to a level 2 accountant, and also give them district treasurer responsibilities. And the midpoint that I calculated was $88,406. And then the range is calculated based upon that for a minimum and a max. Questions that I can maybe answer more specific. I try to keep it as like balcony level as I could. Great.
So the question came up, so the controller treasurer appointed, that will actually be abolished, so that line will move, it will be deleted. And then the accountant district treasurer, it will be unhighlighted and just stand as a approved position, if that makes sense. Then Melissa will get into the general manager. Same thing we talked about, get more into detail about that salary surveys.
It would be possible.
Yes, it will be cost savings.
So I have a question. So this is probably a stupid question, but do you, when you're going out to get what the base pay is, are we just looking at Utah as a whole, or are you going all?
So it depends on the salary survey. I really want local data, the best I can.
Yeah, that's.
I'm looking at both public sector and private sector.
Okay.
We can kind of jump to the general manager report. You can kind of see in table 1 the surveys I use. Go pull it down, pull it back. Those are the surveys that are primarily used, and you can look at the geographic area. Employers Council, they are a regional survey, but if they have Utah data, I use that. And then a lot of you are familiar with TechNet, and that's 100% government. And in this particular position, I use Wasatch Front area data, specifically for that higher level accounting position.
Thank you.
That's a great question. That was not stupid. That was really very important.
So which they could say that after I ask.
Any other questions?
Could we get approval for well, how do you approve everything all together after the client review, or excuse me, the general manager? But can we get approval for this reclassification salary range for now, on the policy adopt?
Yeah, we have a motion.
You said it.
Sherry,
I'll second.
second. Greg, thank you. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Oh,
It's not voice more.
I thought that was. Sorry. Any opposed? Motion carries.
I would like to say quickly, thank you. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really taking a look better than just doing what we've always done. See if there's ways to cut costs on that and make sure it makes sense.
Okay, so that was Matt, the second. Making sure.
Can I just ask, when are we listening for this job?
Today, I'm just
Oh,
waiting for this. You're like, I just saw it.
All right,
Good luck.
now we're on general manager's position.
So just formally, I will be retiring at the end of September and wanted it to be in the minutes. And then I've been working with Hazel and Melissa and our board officers to review, the job description, the job announcement, and what we're gonna show you after Melissa goes through pretty much what she just described. If you have any more questions, we can just jump to the job announcement itself. So my recommendation is that you cast a very, very wide net. And I've mentioned the Utah Association of Special Districts, the League of Cities and Towns, and then also the SWAN, Solid Waste Association of North America, to really cast that net, see what happens. You never know. Who may come walking through the door. I believe we'll have a couple of internal candidates, but I don't know for sure. But we will have, if you are open to it, as part of the interview panel, Hazel Dunsmore, of course, our HR manager, I think it makes sense for her to be part of that. And then David Icke has also volunteered to be part of that. And he knows our operation, so I think that would be a great prospect there. We have an outside person that has mentioned they would be willing, if you as a board would like them to, and that's our retired controller, Craig Adams, who also helped to recruit for Helen's position. So anyway, food for thought, just outside hire, but somebody that's very familiar with Woodward and has served at very high level. CFO and the mining company, and also CEO and so something like the private sector. So just food for thought.
And he's not applying.
He's retired. And happily, I should say he's happily retired, but very much is proud of this organization and wants to help wherever he can.
So I have a comment I'd like to make. Me and Pam talked on Friday and I asked her if there's anybody in-house that would probably be able to be qualified for this job. And she did say there was some, you know, not real broad, but there's some people. But one of my concerns is this committee that's gonna go through. If we really have somebody that I feel that's qualified in-house, I think that if we can, if you guys feel good enough hiring that person, that actually builds morale too for this district. And it seems like the district struggled a little bit with that morale.
And that's definitely something to keep in mind to go through that process.
Thanks, Anna.
Any other comments?
I'll go ahead. Do you want me to go?
If you've got more, please.
Yeah. So, so what I created here was kind of an executive summary for you to kind of look at as far as what the analysis process really looks like. I know I kind of touched on a little bit with the accountant. This actually is in more of a verbal sense. So if you're ever kind of questioning, how is the data derived? Where does it come from? This is the methodology that's used. And we stay true to it for all positions. It doesn't matter if it's a container specialist or a general manager. It just keeps the compensation system that we've created for Woodward the same and consistent. Sometimes we might look at different market data, and that's why I appreciate you, Nick, for asking that question, because sometimes we're going to have to look at more of a regional data for a general manager position. So if you go down to table 1, you'll see that I've listed the 3 survey sources that I used in making recommendation for the general manager salary range. And the first one is comp data, and that geographic area primarily stayed in the Salt Lake City, Northern Utah area. And comp data primarily has companies that submit that are both public and private sector. With Employers Council, That particular job match ended up having to be more regional based. And so you're looking at a geographic area of Arizona, Colorado, Utah, and Wyoming in order to get a data point for that. And then lastly, TechnologyNet. For that market, I selected all of Utah, but only special service districts. And so that to me is your total match. That's really what you're looking at. What I think is important that you have a skill set within government that is very important, but you're also looking for those leadership abilities that you might find in the private sector. Because of that, there might be a little bit of a compensation difference. But when you take all of those surveys together, what I'm looking for is the midpoint of the data, making sure that they're all aged to the same date, and then averaging all of those median data points. And that's kind of how we derived with the recommendation of what we came up with. And if you want to go to the actual pay plan. Oh, or job announcement. This is the range that's calculated. And that midpoint, as you can see, is the 215,000. I can't even say it right now. $215,035 is the calculated midpoint. So here's the concern, and I brought this up in pre-board meeting, and when I met with the chair and the vice chair, it's currently our pay plan has a midpoint of, did I put it down? 228,446. So there's a decrease, it's a 6.24% decrease from what we currently have on our pay plan. I just want to kind of pull back how that came to be. When I pulled the data in September of 2022, there was similar surveys, but they weren't all the same. And at that time, we went through the same process with the chair and vice chair. We reviewed it, we were comfortable with it. That came in at $211,227. That's the last time we looked at market data. And since then, we've had 2 COLA increases for a total of 8%. So that's how we came up with the 228,446 current. But now that we're looking at current market data, it doesn't reflect what it is right now. And so we had a serious talk about this, and we still felt strongly that because we're a market-driven plan, we really truly need to represent what the market is showing. And so our recommendation is, even though the current pay plan shows it at that $228,000, that we reduce it to this new table that
Back to the job.
yeah, so that would be the range. But we also appreciate your input if you see that that might be a concern.
Questions? Comments? Okay, so I guess we were looking for a motion for
So moved.
Nick.
Second.
Thank you. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I might have missed it. So the current, so as of today, the midpoint will be what? Still the 215?
That is a change.
Okay, from the 228.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Looks like we're on board assignments. So we had some volunteers. Is this the-
I think so. It's up to you as a board, how you would like to, you want to have a hiring committee and have board members part of it. And I think that the board officers mentioned, being able to serve on the committee. I wouldn't want to overwhelm somebody coming in, but then again, if you're looking for that person that has served at a high level of management or director position, I think they would be pretty used to that kind of process. So just leaving it up to you, and you want to appoint a committee, assign people, and
So there was some light discussion last month about, executive board and 2 to 3 other board members. We're not more than that. And then I believe Rachel and,
The employees.
Hazel, and David, just write them down this time.
Mr. Chair, you can, I can throw my name if you're interested, anybody.
Yes, sir.
Matt was also written on the packet, there were names listed.
I thought there was two.
Yeah, there was already names
There
listed.
were names listed of who had volunteered to be available,
Oh, I thought.
but we
you
did not
already
make that
established.
official.
It wasn't official.
That was also.
Oh, got it. I thought that
I
was
was like,
official.
No, there was no vote on that or anything like that, so.
Okay, then I will throw my name in as my city will expect me to. Throw my name in, so I'd be happy to do that.
Matt is also ready because I'm listening.
Yeah, I'm happy to either do that, or I was also gonna say, if I'm not on that committee, I think, any of us on this board here, I'd like at least the opportunity before, we just sit here and vote yes or no, to at least have the opportunity to engage with that individual. So that's the only ask really is, I think, I know Robert had, thrown himself out there. Feel bad because I know he wanted to be on it, he's not here, so he should be penalized for that, but.
I think it's like Laurie, right? She was.
Yeah, she
Sorry,
did.
what's on it?
It's
Out of interest, and I was just gonna say, the committee needs to be somewhat small, because we don't wanna be overwhelming, we don't wanna do, meeting notifications. But also, part of that committee's decision will be, what is our process going to be, and to what extent are we gonna bring this back to the board, and that's something the committee can work out the details of, like, bringing candidates back to the, board meeting, or something else,
Special meeting.
it's not gonna be just the decision of the committee. It's gonna be the
We
whole-
just hired a city manager. I don't remember if we did a closed session with them just to allow our council to kind of just engage and ask questions.
I think we could probably.
If you want to look at.
With closed session, when you're interviewing candidates to fill midterm vacancies of board members, that's specifically in the law, but for hiring positions, I think that's.
I know at Harriman, we definitely did.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah.
And we did just break it into a smaller committee to kind of sift through some.
Exactly, there's just a lot of work that goes.
Yes,
yeah,
But it was very much, the whole council was very much involved in the process, same when I was on the water board. It's just really important for everyone to feel like
They have a say.
it's just
But
important.
when you vote yes or no, whenever you
Yeah.
actually feel like, okay, I'm comfortable with this.
Yeah, and even, I just think it's important to keep your board informed as you sift through the information, here's people who are raising to the top, here's why, those kind of, I just think that the level of communication has to be there, just so that everybody's in the loop, so we understand why these people are being brought forward, those types of things.
Depending on how many people apply, it might be that they consider everyone, and
Yeah.
it's not like a second assess, but if it does get to where maybe we need to narrow this down, and maybe the committee would say we need to run this by the board. We'll make sure that everyone's
Yeah.
feeling like we're putting someone in appropriately.
Love it.
But yeah, that's just, the small committee is able to kind of be a little bit more nimble and at least push the process along where we'll still have the full board be fully involved in the selection and analysis. It's your appointee as a whole.
So right now, we've got, from the previous discussion, we've got Keith, Robert, and Lori as far as our as alternate slash non-mandatory volunteers. Is anybody wanting to back out of that? Double down and really want to be on that committee?
So I don't know if Hannah, Rachel, you can tell me, as vice chair, actually, I'm pretty swamped in the next couple of months. So I would like to be on the committee, but I don't know how available I'm going to be. So if that would give opportunity for somebody who would be able to put more, forethought into it and be able to give the committee what it deserves. But I don't know if that is vice chair, can I do that? Okay, all right. Because I would like to, I just don't think I should be involved, but it's secure. Okay, sorry about
That's
that.
okay, don't feel bad.
I'm gonna call it off on you.
Then Anna, do or
Yeah, I'd love to take your space. I think there's just an expectation over at the city building.
Yeah.
So if there's a space available, I have to. If not, I'm happy to follow along on the sideline.
So board members, that gives us myself, Keith, Robert, Lori, and Hannah. Is everybody okay with that? That puts us at 6, if we have that.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Five's great.
And I really didn't know more than 5, just because of Rich's advice on.
Yeah, on having
the
that.
size of the committee. But yeah, if everybody's okay with that, I guess it's, have a motion to confirm those.
Okay, good.
We've got broad interest, so we'll make it work.
That's awesome.
I'm glad that you all have
Yeah.
invested in it.
Yeah.
Really thankful.
I think there's a nice diversity of the board members that are.
We've also got the message that the greater board wants to be highly involved as well. And we
Yeah.
want to just get a recommendation at the end. So
Yes.
I'm sure the committee will take that.
You all produce them? Yeah.
Nobody wants to make a motion on that?
Oh, I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Have we lost audio again tonight? Everyone online?
Sounds like it.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Somebody got a comment online?
Oh, we're back.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Pat, can you hear us?
Now we
You
can.
now, but you got out for a few minutes.
What was the last thing you heard?
Well,
Vote
I
on
think
the last
question was-
motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the last motion carried with the committee for the hiring committee. You guys heard that? Or no?
We did not hear it and we did not vote.
Nope, we didn't.
Thank you for letting
let's
us
back
know.
up.
Yeah, well, let's back up. So the motion was for the board members, myself, Keith, Robert, Lori, and Hannah. And from staff, Rachel, Hazel, and David. And there was a motion by Mick, a second by Anna. We had it all in favor, so go.
Aye.
Aye.
I
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, motion 3 carries. Or carries. And then we moved on to the general manager's report for Pam. Sounds like
Okay.
it didn't this much.
So just to kick off the report, we do have the National Waste and Recycling Workers Day coming up on June 19th. It's also National Freedom Day. And we will have a food truck on site to have a big celebration right here in the north parking lot. Some of you have been able to attend that in the past. Please come if you're able to. 7 a.m. right here on premises. And all of our team will be out there. We'll do our monthly recognition awards. Those are peer nominated. We give those out every month. And just these photos that you see in front of you are pictures from the garbage person day, as we call it. And then also our monthly recognition program. So then with that, I'm going to turn some time over to James Kelsey, who is our sustainability coordinator. And he's going to run through some of our sustainability programs and some great results that are happening. James, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys hearing me out today, giving me the opportunity to go over some of this stuff. So I'll focus on a few things. I'm going to start with our recycle program. As everyone is probably aware, we have an 18% diverting goal, meaning that our goal is to divert 18% of the total tonnages that we haul to sustainable disposal options such as recycling, green waste burn, composting, or blast recycling. For 2024, we ended the year at 19.75% diversion, so well above our 18% goal. And Q1 of 2025, we're at 19.44%, so again, above our goals. Curbside recycling really is one of our most important avenues in our sustainable initiatives. Not only because it diverts the materials, but it gives them a second life that gives us a way to use those materials over the course of time. So looking at our tonnages, Q1 of 2025, we ended at 4,846.84 tons of recycle. I really want to look at 2024's total tonnages of 19,215.98 tons. So that's a substantial amount of material, but it's more than just a number. It is actual raw material saved. So if we look at that graphic to the right at the top, if we take the total tonnages that were pulled from the district, sample sort data that was pulled over the course of the year, and metrics from the EPA, we can estimate raw resource savings through recycling programs. So looking at this, using the total district's tonnages, we estimate a savings of 221,961 trees, which seems ludicrous, if I may say so, but that equates to 33.5 million cardboard boxes if they took those trees and used raw cardboard material. It seems like a lot, but that's less than one cardboard box per resident per day, so it really adds up quickly. Next, we estimate 91.4 million gallons of water saved.
That's what I was wondering too.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So if you don't mind if I get into this, I'm going to get into the weeds a little bit.
Oh, you're getting excited, I can tell. You're excited.
So, every month we conduct sample sorts. I went over this before, but I'm going to get into it a little bit. So basically take a truck from every city once a month. When we dump that truck, we sort through it and determine the material composition of that recyclable. Basically how it breaks down. So I'm just going to give a couple examples so I don't bore you guys with a bunch of statistics, but for cardboard across the district, every recycled truck is composed of 56.46% of cardboard. We go down for each accepted material, so cardboard, paper, plastic materials of each variety, aluminum cans, steel cans. And we can basically determine an estimate of how much of each material is hauled, right? So if we take the total tonnage and we multiply it by that percentage, we get an estimated tonnage of each commodity. So an estimated tonnage of cardboard for last year was 10,842 tons. Well, if we take that tonnage and we use the statistics from the EPA, we know that for every 1 ton of cardboard that's recycled, we reduce mature tree consumption by 17 trees. We save 7,000 gallons of water.
That's what I don't know.
Unless we
I
take the
would say
production.
7,000, yeah, gallons.
Reduction.
The production of cardboard
Okay.
per box equals X amount of water.
It's like,
Because may or may not come
it's the
from a place
production on the other end.
that it has drought. or
On the
not.
box.
Yes, there may or may not be a correlation for drought,
Right.
but
It's the production side.
Yes, yeah, so this is production. This is comparing producing materials from virgin or boxes or whatever the material is from virgin materials compared to recycling.
Right.
Is that cleared up?
how much is actually being recycled?
So they are capturing about 98%. Now it depends on the cleanliness of their recycle. It comes into a lot of things. So,
But I know, for instance, like I know years and years ago, China was buying a lot of recycled material from the United States. Then there was kind of flipped on its head a little bit. Is that, I know we've talked about this in the past, but I'm just since we're talking about it here, is all of our stuff actually being processed through the recycling process? Not counting like pizza boxes with pizza in it. Those are obviously not, but I'm talking maybe true allowable items.
Everything that is allowable, that is clean, does go for recycling. So there's markets on the northwest that one of our vendors sells to. There's markets on the southwest that the other vendor sells to. Not everything goes overseas, but there are still some things that go. With the hard to recycle plastics, like the 2 through, yeah, those right now, there is a cement plant up in Croydon, in Morgan County, Cleveland City. But they actually use those materials rather than coal to heat their kilns to produce cement. And then any ash that's left over also goes into the cement plant. And James made a visit there when I went to see just a couple weeks ago. Yep, to see the actual operation.
Just up by the devil's backbone. Yep.
Got it.
Yeah. Super, okay, thanks.
Questions?
So clamshell plastic can actually be recycled?
Yes, I'm not putting my mouth on that last one, but yes, so the number one PET plastic clamshells, as long as they're clean, can be recycled. I reached out.
I keep hearing different things about that, so.
I reached out to the plastics manager after our last meeting and got clarification, yes, they do use PET plastic clamshells.
So keep eating those eclairs. It's okay. It's okay.
Carol's.
Or Renee's.
Or Renee.
Okay, that's
Renee
good
Roberts.
to know, because that was the last information that I gave many of my constituents. So I'm glad to hear it still is pertinent. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so, again, I'll just finish these off. So 68,193 megawatt hours of electricity reduction, a reduction of 22,585 metric tons of greenhouse gases, and then a big one, especially in our industry, is 165,809 cubic year of landfill space. So
When you do the calculations, are you taking into calculation the cost of recycling and action and minusing that from these savings?
yeah, so I don't. Do you mean like the cost of the natural resources? Is that
Well,
what
if you have a box and
The plant.
you're gonna recycle it, you're not, when I throw my Amazon boxes in there, they're not just gonna go back to Amazon and reuse them, they're
Yes.
gonna be processed.
They're going to be processed.
And so there's these kinds of things that are associated, there's power, there's water, those kinds of things associated. So are you deducting that cost of that?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So this is a true savings, not just what it would cost to produce it originally, but you minus the.
Yes.
From it.
Yes, yeah, so this is the cost of reprocessing those materials into new materials.
Versus, yeah,
Putting together.
So the net,
Yes, net, perfect.
basically net.
Cool. And then again, I did a breakdown for each city below this as well, just so you guys have some tailored information for your cities.
okay. The virgin rate, as you can see, is quite high. So, and then the recycled tonnages and so forth. Is there any questions on this piece for James so far?
Good job.
Okay, so moving into green waste, green waste started on March 11th. Beginning of 2025, there was a $1.50 increase compared to our 2024 fee of $10.50. We, at this point in time, have 11,779 green waste subscribers, which is an increase of about 446 subscribers from this time last year. Our annual revenue on green waste is just below 1.7 million, the 1,696,176. If we take the same total customer count at last year's fees, we have an increase of $212,000.22. And then for our central glass collection, we collect glass in two separate ways. For our central glass collection, we collected 639 tons for 2024. The end of Q1 2025, we're at 145 tons. I do want to highlight that we have a newly added glass drop-off location in Kearns. I got a lot of feedback residents and currents in Magna when I did events looking for last collection locations closer. So we were able to secure that location at the DABS out there. We are starting to see some increased participation. Glass is clean, looks awesome. The manager of that DABS location is happy they're continuing service, so we're happy to see that. On to curbside glass collection. 2024, we ended at 280 tons collected for recycling. First quarter 2025, we're at 59 tons. And we're currently sitting at 2,002 subscribers. Again, a great diversion method to keep those materials out of the landfill. And then we'll jump into community education and outreach. So end of 2024, we attended 29 community events. This year so far, this number is actually incorrect. We're up to 10 events for 2025, and we do have 6 more scheduled so far. Looking to schedule more, so if anything comes up, please reach out to me. I'm going to participate. And then schools has been a big push this year. Sorry,
I think you're coming to our neck of the woods, compromise.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
We're doing a big recycling day. I think you're coming to educate people that plastic plan. Are, maybe won't be, but still are.
That's what I was told.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, we have a few lined up. We also have Harriman lined up for. Sorry, I have so many Harrimantown days, right? Fort Harrimantown days. Sorry, Taylorsville days lined up. Many coming, so please reach out with more.
For schools, what grades do you tend to target?
I really like 3rd grade and 4th grade because they buy in to this big time there. They get really excited about this. That's my preferred age, but I shoot for basically 3rd through 6th has been.
Okay. So generally elementary schools.
Yep. Yeah. And we tailor some of those events or those education opportunities. They have materials that are great for the kids and activities.
So do you do it grade level presentations or like school presentations?
Grade level presentations. My most recent one in Taylorsville, we did all the 3rd grade classes, so it was a total of about 120 students packed into the room. So usually like that, I do like to do the individual classes just because it gives me a chance to get into the weeds a little bit with them. And of those classes, I'll jump to the next one. So we completed 10 so far. Those are just generalized classes, but we estimate about 440 students. I've started out west. I've done Magna, Curtis, Harriman, and Taylorsville. As we continue to move forward, I'll move further east. My goal by the end of next year is to hit at least one school, if not more, in every of our districts and get some participation with those schools.
So just, no, you've come to my city council or my citizen council, did a presentation. Everybody loved it. They're still talking about it. The schools are well. So it does make an impact and it makes a difference. I'm surprised. I'm just as surprised that the junior high and high school kids aren't, because they're so environmentally conscious, or maybe they're just too busy to listen, or they know it all.
I don't know.
Both of those, but
They do know it all. I have
yeah,
several.
okay, and that's very, I think they really buy into
But
this.
have you tried it at high schools yet or
I
not?
haven't done it for high schools yet.
I do think, I do agree. There's a lot of high schoolers that are really like engaged and environmentally aware, and especially if you target specific classes that are focused on that. I think you could get some great kids.
Like Red Bull cans, target that.
I know
Pizza boxes.
interview our youth council, if they come in and do their interviews, many of the people that we interview on our youth council, they target recycling and concerns about that. Can we have more of these types of things in our community? So I agree, it would be a good market, I think, to target those kids. And those kids are, a lot of those kids would go up and, you know, they're obviously looking at careers and things like that and innovation and things. So maybe they would be the people that you should plant those seeds in their minds and maybe come up with new ways to recycle or come up with different ideas. So I think
Yeah.
it's a good target.
they're
Especially
busy
with
on
things like
social media.
lunches and all of like because they see all of the waste and so just, I think that there's a big potential there.
Okay, awesome, thanks for.
Yeah, and if you come up with something new, at least for Holiday City, we all sit on community councils for different schools, I'm just assuming that with that, so we have connections, so if you get something for our high school, let me know.
Okay, yeah, awesome, thank you, I appreciate it. Okay. Anything else, any questions for me before I slide away?
I'll give you a hundred. Last process, someone from my cities, August 23rd.
August 24th.
And I'm here for, probably, have a butler go next.
Yeah.
We did Butlerville Days Parade last year.
We've gone and just had a booth there. It's a 2-day.
That was it.
Butlerville Days is awesome.
Yeah.
And like the historic committee has a little booth. I really do think that it'd be great to have that.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, we do have, this picture here is from the,
Thank you.
Southeast Township days. And
It's being rebranded. It's just gonna be the last of summer.
okay, so now, thank you.
That's last.
So this is Buki, who's one of our very passionate recycling drivers. You can see that he's over there telling people come over and get educated. And when we were asked or if we're able to, we'll take a truck out, parades or at events, and we can see the truck itself. And kids love it.
One
They
thing
walk
I
the
will
walk,
say,
don't
it's well to have, you may have to go
Yes.
because you're going to end up getting people that are going to come talk. Fees for trash.
Yeah.
Things that, and you may be able to answer some of those questions a little better.
Yeah, James usually appreciates if I go.
Build all of them.
Yeah.
And you may want to talk to Pam about that one. That was hard to see. Hard to see.
No, Jeff, bring us cookies.
Yeah.
Different they making.
Yeah.
Okay. That's. I don't think it's-
Yeah.
James, thank you, well done.
No, thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you.
So, don't recall if we had a closed session on this.
Thought we did. No, okay.
Any other board business?
Just mine, our RFPs, shouldn't say RR.
What?
Our RFPs came back and Chairman will be asking the board to withdraw and go through the process of whatever that looks like.
That's a good question. I know, we all met on Wednesday, I can't remember the day. Those bids that you received, were they strictly, it looked like they were just curbside.
No, there's
Except for
curbside
rentals.
recycling.
Yeah, sorry, curbside garbage and recycling on the basis. Did it include any kind of an annual bulk cleanup or anything? I didn't see that or.
No.
Christmas tree.
No, and we've discussed a lot about that percentage of people who use like curbside, like the leaf and the Christmas trees. We also do a cleanup in Harriman. That we get a massive attendance on at the park. And so, we're gonna move in that direction. I just know that the savings are substantial enough to move that direction. And I'll be quite candid. This district has benefits that other private people don't have. Like we have access to the state procurement, we get discounts through that. We don't have to pay taxes, and other people have to pay taxes. We have the benefit I've talked about before as far as being able to put our stuff on people's taxes if they don't pay it. So it's concerning to me that we're so much higher when we still have those benefits. And so it's just a direction we feel like is best for our city. And I also think it's just part of growing up, you know what I mean? There's a lot of changes we made in Harriman in the last 8 years, just because of the change in growth in our area, and sometimes it comes to a point where it makes more sense for you to do that on your own instead of being part of of a bigger district. So we've done that with our police department, we've done that with our, even so, fire. UFSA, we're still with UFA, but we are out of the taxing entity of that, because it doesn't make sense, because as you grow and one partner gets a lot bigger, then they end up subsidizing the little partners. And then as a city, you have to look at that and think that we can't afford to ask our residents to do that for other residents of the county. So that's kind of where we're at. But I think it's on for our future then for next month to talk about maybe.
Yeah, we'll have more in depth, because Rachel will do some research
Yeah.
to talk about the process and so forth.
And we're fully aware, of the cost that's been incurred by the district and service fairmen and those types of things, and all have to be part of the negotiation process. So we just would like to move down that path of that negotiation.
So I was just gonna ask if it's something that any cities are interested to look at that RFP.
Yeah,
And
I'm sorry.
I'd be anxious just to see and feel like I can go look at that for my own city too. So.
I have a call in.
We're actually going out for a quote right now. So.
I have a call in to Nathan for that, so I'll get that to you.
Another item that I did have.
I think we can probably do it next month, but one of the things that Harriman did was to reach out to us and find out what we do, how much we do, how many cans and so forth, because if a city really has a desire to leave, which I think is unfortunate, I understand. And honestly, part of my will to leave is it's just not how it used to be. It used to be all for one for all, and I understand things change. I totally understand that, but it's sad. So if a city is going to go out and go for bid, then I strongly recommend you reach out to me so we can give you that information so that your hauler or the person that's bidding knows what they're doing and they're not gonna sell you short.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's, to me, to have a city lead is sad. However.
And just so you know, Pat, we're looking for apples, we're not looking for an apple for an orange.
Sure, that include green waste
We have, well, we have a spreadsheet that, because Wolford did an excellent job of exactly that. So we have a spreadsheet that compares each service across the board and then how much different things cost and what percentages of our residents use certain things. So there, for sure, it's not exactly, our service won't be exactly the same as with Wolford. That's absolutely for sure. But then as a council, then we have to decide, okay, well then, what would our residents prefer? Do they care enough about this? Like if only 5% of our residents are using Christmas tree pickup, and I don't know exactly what the percentages were, but then why are 95% of the residents helping pay for services that include that? You know what I mean? When only a very small percentage of them ever use it, so why should everyone pay for that for just that small percentage? So those kind of conversations are part of what we've been having. Us as a council haven't had a big, long review over all the RFPs to make for sure that this is but the savings were enough that that's the direction the council wants to go. Does that answer the question?
It's a tough pill to swallow. It really is. The increase to 26, and then some of the press that has come, it's been really hard. I'm hearing it all the time from residents. And now that it's going to monthly, and the cost of that, and it's hard to explain those things on a phone call, but they're just looking at it going, that's a huge jump and we don't even get scrap on the street. And that seems to be huge in Taylorsville. I want scrap on the street.
It's been a thorn forever.
It's just in our city, yeah. So this was almost 3 biggies in one.
Yeah.
Well, that's a perfect segue to the next point. So another point of business we had is an exploration of expanding the 2026 future seasonal container program. In White City, we were looking at subsidizing additional dumpsters that the city would pay for and adding that to scrap. Some of the details are, it's the standard reservable dumpsters that anybody can get at any time of the year. They'll pay a fee, and essentially White City would say, hey, let's add those to our scrap count, but we don't pay for those out of city budget. Obviously, that kind of comes up before the board a little bit because those are meant to be used for anybody, not just say White City. So there's, I don't know.
Could we have drivers to that?
Yeah.
Good question. So yeah, in exploring those options, because we do have additional cleanup options that I send out to cities that we change every year. This one in particular, I'm looking at trying to expand scrap, which we, went for many meetings trying to figure that out and also residents' questions. So there is an option to take trailer rental. This year we rolled out container rental to see how that would work. So that's the same truck, the same type of equipment that the scrap program runs on. It's a hook lift truck and a roll-on container. So we wanted to see, was there any kind of a cost difference with those two, trailer versus container? The big thing with trailers and why it's so expensive, I know that's been controversial as well, is that we have to pay insurance on those trailers. They are a moving piece of equipment, whereas a roll-off sits on a truck, we just have to insure that truck. So at any rate, long story short, too late, we can use those 7 container rental slots with a full-time driver per day to, if you as a board wanted to make that change to go over to the scrap. And what that, what I can do is come back and say, this is what it would look like. And make sure with my team that that's truly, we're able to do that. So the question I think you as a board, come back with that information is, do you want to just roll that into all the costs and have all fees cover that? And have, if we can make it happen, 7 additional containers per day go out to each municipalities during your time frame. And as you know, depending on your size of your city, depends on how many days you get, right? So those are some discussion topics. I think it's worth exploring. I'm thankful that Board Chair Shelton dug into it with Renee Plant. And we were brainstorming, trying to figure it out, and it could be an avenue.
It's definitely worth looking at.
And it's steady. We have a full-time driver and not seasonal. That's what that's. And that full-time driver would still be here working in the off-season, doing trees, leaves, everything else, or running the route for rental.
So, hey, Pam, question I have for you is, problem that we have that I hear a lot of complaints about is where they used to come out and dump out the dumpsters, so many for area around. And now they've gone to this, like you say, the trailers where you have to reserve them. And people are not happy out in Acton about that. They like to drop off on the curb because a lot of people don't want to rent the trailers because now they accept liability if somebody comes over and they get hurt dumping something in there and it's on their property.
So can I just say one thing? Because when I first got to the board, I was hell-bent, and still want to be, on improving the experience. And I loved when it was in your kind of vicinity. I also love, I was born and raised in Salt Lake. I love that we did, you just put it on the curb and they came and got it. Pam mentioned a couple things which at least makes me think that, the district ends up incurring a ton more cost for dumping and other things in the cottage. Because you just put them out there and you get contractors that are dumping a ton of stuff, which I'm currently have a contractor working on a project. He would joke that he would do that. But you end up, our residents end up paying for that. And I think they're trying to balance just letting anyone take advantage of it versus putting it in your yard and you're kind of in control of it. Because I want it, but I don't think about people doing such crazy things, but they do.
And all the stuff that they can put in it, they could throw a whole bunch of paint cans, or
Yep.
tires, or anything like that, and then nobody would know who that came from.
The problem that I have is when they come over, when somebody brings a truck over to my area, right? And they get out and they start throwing everything, and it's like, no, this is our dumpster. But, you know, and I agree with that, because like we say, you get people throwing paint and tires and mattresses.
Mattresses.
We have them all around our town.
One thing I'll say that I have noticed, because, I mean, I think everyone would love to go back to the original system, but what I have noticed with this system is a couple of things. Is first, when the dumpsters were coming in on all of like the neighborhood chats, it would be like, get your stuff in before all the contractors come. Like that was the discussion, which is not happening. And now I feel like, as far as just like our little community, our little neighborhood, everyone's like, oh, I've got room in my dumpster's coming tomorrow. So I actually, just as a neighborhood, I like that feeling better where everybody is like watching out for each other, like, oh, okay, we're done with our dumpster. Anyone can put in whatever they need. And so just the vibe of like, beware of who's coming to our neighborhood as opposed to like, hey, people are welcome. Like, I just kind of have appreciated that change. I mean, that said, it is really just nice to.
No, it is so nice, and I told people, I said, hey, look, we just wanna make sure that people that are putting it in dumpster, people that own the district, that's all. It's super simple. I don't want us as neighbors subsidizing those that are doing work and trying to dump their stuff. That's not fair, right? And they
We're
usually.
actually getting paid to throw that away and finding a free place to dump.
Yeah, fine, right.
So that's.
They do.
I have to put up in the Sandy, because Sandy still does the curbside stuff. A lot of times people just pull up and dump stuff in front of their yards, because it's like, they know that they're coming through, so it happens. I think it's. Yeah, it costs a lot.
Are they responsible for that? Is their homeowner?
Well,
No,
the Sandy,
Sandy,
when they still curbside. Yeah.
But
If they don't know,
Oh.
Because they don't know whose stuff it is, they
Yeah.
just see what's in front of your home, they just come pick it up, but.
Oh, they've gotten, I would say, they've gotten very strict about like how many feet away from the curb and what types of materials and how it's stacked.
If there
And they
weren't,
will not pick it up if it's not done. So
I-
if someone stuff incorrectly, they wouldn't. pick that
there
up.
weren't jerks.
Then you're
I
liable.
personally don't see anything almost like.
I've never had to- that's the answer.
Like, said that that's happened, I'm like, that makes sense, I wouldn't be surprised. I've never seen that, I've never seen random people come and put stuff on the curbs. We get a lot of pickers, like people like to drive.
Oh, yeah.
Stop and see.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't mind that, I'm like, sure, take it.
Recycle.
Yeah.
This is Marcy Houston, just,
Go ahead, Marcy.
hi, I know you're having a discussion. It's hard to jump in and I know it's because I'm online, so I understand. But I know you were discussing our bulk waste program and I appreciate, it was hard to see who was talking, but I appreciate the explanation of sort of the additional, if you want to call them interventions that we've taken. But it is a beloved program and we have, taken some steps to ensure that we are avoiding some of the things that Matt described. So it sounds like it was covered, but I'm happy to talk further if anyone needs that.
Yeah, Marcy, the main point was that we're looking at an avenue to add to the scrap program as opposed to finding ways to make it necessarily cheaper to save money. So it's more of a, how can we even make it even better without obviously going back to the old way that everybody hears constantly that it worked better back then, but there, all the liabilities and pros and cons, we're not likely to do that from my understanding. So that was kind of the main thing.
Yeah, I tracked the conversation. What I wanted to just make sure people knew is I'm on the call and Sandy was brought up, and if I need to elaborate on what that has looked like, but I understand you're not actually considering going to that. But I couldn't not speak up and share that there are significant benefits, and I'm happy to speak to that.
Let the record show Marcy is a fierce defender of Sam.
Okay, there you go. Thank you, Marcy. All right, does anybody have any other further comments on that? Obviously, we'll come back to that item again later, but it's just something that we've been working on to try to improve that. At least us in White City, we get a lot of people that would like to see more dumpsters available, as I'm sure all of you guys do. So that was kind of the main point. How could we do that, even if the city subsidized the extra cost, or if we're able to do it in-house, even better. But yeah, that was the main point of that. So if nobody has anything further to add, we'll go ahead and move on to the requested items for the next board meeting, Monday, June 23rd at 9 a.m. Policy revision for the general manager's annual review and conversation, discussion on RFP, cost benefit analysis, cities withdrawing from the district, and general manager. I'll take a motion.
What's that, further discussion on scrap?
Yes.
Add that on.
Never ending suggestion.
And more scrap.
It should just be static.
Yeah,
Yeah.
scrap discussion just time.
With that, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second. And Keith?
Oh, I'm here.
What? It was Keith, right?
Yep.
I didn't give it the wrong person. All in favor?
Bye.
Bye.
Any opposed?
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Diane, did I do it? Did I get you out in time?
That's one upstate.
One of those 15